You know something, ladies and gentlemen. They say that in this nation, the United States of America, there are over 300 million people. I didn't say a million. I didn't say 100 million. I said 300 million people. And do you know what? Right now, I understand that we are engaged in a war. Now, they have a system set up whereby if the nation is considering engaging in a war, there's a process that takes place. And it is held as legal, constitutional, the law. And really everybody abides by it. But then one man came along and decided that he would take this nation to war. And he did. And right now, this nation is at war with over 300 million people had no say in it. You might say that there were those who followed these orders when they weren't supposed to, but then that just shows you how easily people are programmed to be or not to be. One man, now that is the clearest sign of white supremacy you can ever imagine. Took a nation to war, one man violated the law, and the law let him get away with it. That's why white supremacy, white privilege. You know why? Nobody else could have done it. Can you imagine a black man, one they have said is an original man? Can you imagine him pulling off anything like that? Let me ask you this. Would America let him get away with that? Would black Americans let him get away with something like that? You know white Americans wouldn't. Why wouldn't they? Because of every reason you can imagine. Over 300 million reasons, perhaps. But at the same time, none of those reasons prevented us from being in war. And now the nation and the world does not look at Donald Trump and say, that's Donald Trump. They say that's America. They say every kind of evil thing that you think about Donald Trump, for those of you who do think that way, that's the way the world see us, just like that. And every day that it continues, this is what they say about us every day. And you know what? They are accurate. Because here again, if it were anybody else, especially a black person, especially Barack Obama, it would have never happened. But they had a choice and they decided to let the world know who and what America is really like. Now, I say these things to you, ladies and gentlemen, because somebody should say them to you. And thank you very much if you allowed me to say them to you. But this is not the bulk of the message. This is just to say the pain and suffering and how ignorant and how dumb and how stupid and how foolish we are. But the whole concern is to change this around. Because you know you don't want to be in war. You don't want to pick up a plastic bag and put your little belongings in it and start dragging it down the street trying to find somewhere to go. You don't want to be walking down the street trying to look in that dumpster can, trying to see if you can find a bite to eat. God forbid if you got children, because you got to find something for them as well. You don't want to be just running, getting sick and hurting and no doctor or anybody to treat you. You don't want to be running from buildings burning up and people running around with guns, robbing people and doing every kind of stuff like that. You don't want to do that. But on the path that you're on, that's where it leads to. And so I want you to know that there's another way. And the way that I'm going to tell you about is nothing new. I've been saying it for 40 some years. And for 40 some years, you have never heard it. Even if the words came through your ear, you didn't hear it. And you are suffering profusely. And you don't even really understand, which makes it seem likely that perhaps many Americans are dumb, stupid, ignorant fools. At least that's the way the rest of the world sees us. We might still see ourselves as the number one greatest nation on the face of the earth, but the rest of the world sees us the other way. But if we can change, if we can say we don't want to be seen like this, if we just feel bad about ourselves and say we want to feel better about ourselves, and think about what is it that allowed you to be caught up in a situation like this, you will recognize it is the way you feel about one another. You have been taught to be as selfish. Nothing matters but you. Nothing matters to any of you but you. And that is one of the most major problems, because you have got to learn that everybody matters, and they matter as much as you, which means you got to put some time in it with one another to determine how to work it out. And it's no big thing. It's no big thing. Once you realize that you guys are made of the same kind of stuff and all of the resources were given to us, and every last one of us would benefit from it, then we understand that every one of us should participate in the process of creating enough of all that stuff so we can get it when we need it, want it, or desire. Plain and simple. Plain and simple. Now, why is it so hard for white people to see that? The white supremacy of the people to see that? Why is it so difficult for white privilege to see that? But still, why is it so hard for black people and people of color to see that? Why is it so hard for all of us to see that? Or is it that we see it, but we don't have the courage to change? We don't have the courage to switch from what we don't like to what we do like if there's a threat over it. And there is a threat to change the system. Yes. Anything that's set up to change the system must do so in the way the system permits it, and the system permits it so it won't be done. Ain't that something? But it's not funny. Well, all I want to say to you is this: your parents, your government, and God. First of all, you are the captain of your ship. But for those who respect and honor their parents, when it comes down to the bottom line, they will give their parents. But even for the kids and the parents who got it together, they recognize that there's a power that is responsible for their existence. And that power is called God. And that one day they each would have to yield to God. And what would happen when you yield to God? They say is heaven. So I say, if heaven is all of that, why are we waiting? Why don't we create it? That's the way it was designed to be. So, ladies and gentlemen, let us design heaven. Let us not just wallow in the hell that we have created. Let us repent and throw this stuff in the trash. And let us create something brand new, something that's beautiful, something that's wonderful. Let us do it. And God can do what God wants to do. But God made us to be who we are. And one of us is saying to the rest of us, let us change this world and let us make it beautiful. Why? Because God made us and we are just that good. We are just that tough. And we are just that all right. Thank you.